Hello everyone, Tuxedo Fit here, and today I would like to try something a bit different. I'm going to call this the Retro Athletic Sneaker Comparison Video, or we could call it the Sleek versus the Chunky. And the two guests I have today are from a company called Puma and a company called Reebok. And I've got the Puma Disc Blaze, and it's a shoe I'm really proud of, and I got it some years back, and it's really served me well. And I do think it is a lucky shoe. But just to give you a bit of a history of it, it was first released in 1991, and it was first tested on some elite runners. And a unique thing about it is this disc system. It's got some internal wires that, when this disc is turned, let it lace up, and it has got to be the fastest shoe to put on. It, I've got some notes here, just to help me out, and just with the look of it, it is a neoprene sock in a plastic and rubber cage, and the toe box is suede, and it's been glued on to a polyurethane bottom, and these things in combination just work. It's got this snug, cushy, breathable fit, but it's still light, and the cage really makes it feel firm and solid, where and the toe box feels so sturdy with the suede, and the mesh addition as well just helps it feel even more breathable. And just looking at the design of it, it almost feels like I'm holding an illustration with the little details that just all flow and complement each other. And they really interpolated, the materials and also the design so well, in that it really feels like, if you watch the shows like, at that time, the Power Rangers or Voltron, this shoe wouldn't feel out of place in, a costume like that. It really does feel like something out of a 90s cartoon. It's got elements of technology, it's got this eye-catching design, and the branding as well. It all just ties in together. These are all the little, elements I find so appealing about it. But let's really look at it and really go into the details. And I like the color blocking of how the cage is different to the neoprene sock, and just the texture of the plastic and rubber of the cage. It's got these nice, almost sort of like air vents. It really reminds me of a Ferrari Testarossa. Um, and just the back of the ankle support, um, it really is a nice little element. The sock is also a bit more subdued with this almost cheetah. No, I don't say cheetah, earthy kind of print. It reminds me of the Jordan elephant print, um, kind of, and that complements the yellow lining of the inner and the cage so well. And just looking at the lines of the cage, it's got these really nice curvatures and slopes and angles. You can really feel how in the illustration the brush and pen was really gliding on the paper, and it really guides your eye around. It almost feels like the body of a motorcycle, kind of, if I could call it that. And the more muted, subdued colors of the sock, you really have to even look to see the foam strip, as Puma calls it, which it's actually behind the cage. And I really like the way they did that. It's got this sort of eye-catching, alluring sort of feel to it, and I'd almost call it a sunset sort of shoe. I find the shoe really shines the best at about sunset, and it is quite light and nice to run in, and I just like how they're layered elements to the design. You can take it all in parts and then look at it all together, and it it really shows me how versatile these elements could be, because the shoe really came back in 2012 with their collaboration with Ronnie Fieg, and there's so many interesting things you could work with and collaborate, and that's something I like a lot as well. There's so many different color tones, color schemes, materials you can mix around, and it's why I really had to almost compare the Puma disc to another shoe that I liked a lot that also gives off an energy and a vibe and really makes you, also from a similar era. And just before I now move on to the Reebok shoe, I like how the stance of this shoe kind of makes it look like it's something that wants to dart forward or pounce, not really take off, but like, and it's so sleek. So it it's what I'd call a sleek interpretation of this meme of this type of shoe. And I like how this shoe compared to the Reebok shoe, I like how they're similar but different. They're all part of a conversation. And you could almost add in the Nike Huarache as well. And next video, I might include the Huarache in the conversation. But I really like the different interpretations of similar ideas, and they're both speaking their own design languages. And I think at this point, we'll now swap the two around. Next up, I've got the Reebok Pump, and this shoe was released in 1989, and the legendary designer, Mr. Stephen Smith, and the product developer, Mr. Paul Litchfield, really made something eye-catching and so interesting. And this shoe's got some very, very interesting elements I want to talk about. It's got an internal inflation mechanism. It's got a hex-light bottom. It's got various types of cushioning. It's got, I don't want to call it a cage, they call this on air bladders, and the whole color blocking that just brings all these different segments together is very, very interesting. It also have, they say, a graphite carbon arch that holds these two hex-like pieces together, and the shoe really does look like something out of a video game. It's got a chunkier, blockier sort of design, and I kind of like the way everything is always all bound and compact and tied together, whereas the Puma disc had a bit more breathing room between the cage and the neoprene sort of sock. The stance of this shoe as well does look like something that wants to launch upwards, and it's got such a vibe to it. I like how, again, this sort of statement they've made in this meme or this conversation of what a retro running shoe looks like. And I really like how the bold shapes and blocks all come together, and it really feels like a design that wouldn't be out of place in sort of a neon lit Blade Runner sort of landscape. This really feels like the shoe to have in that sort of context. It's blocky, it's a blast of color and sharp edges and angles and hexagonal sort of shapes, and just the feel of it. It's a bit not as cushiony at the bottom. It's got a sort of hardish sort of slab, but the feel of the air bladder and just playing with it, the whole air system is quite fun and eye-catching. It's the type of shoe that you'll always get a comment on. And Litchfield has such an interesting quote that I really want to add to this video. He said, "You put the Pump Fury on the shelf, particularly at the time, and 50 people would look at it and go, 'That's the coolest thing ever.' Another 50 people would look at it and go, 'That is the ugliest thing I've ever seen.' But 100 people would notice it, and that's important." And I think that really sums up the idea that we're going for, of really innovating and making something different. and you can really see why Stephen Smith is now with Yeezy. This shoe is just so interesting. I had to just make a video about it and talk about it, and the way it really complements the Reebok tracksuit and the whole vector sort of style language. I really, yeah, I get a nice taste of inspiration from it. So I think I will leave it there. I'm not really going to pick a winner in this one. I just like to do a comparison and just mention, two things that I like that are kind of similar. But yeah, comment down below if there are any other sneakers you would like me to compare. I've got a few other ideas in mind, and I'll try and make it interesting. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Tuxedo Fit out.